सदाशिव समारंभां शंकराचार्य मध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्य पर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरु परंपराम्। श्रुति स्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शंकरं लोकशंकरं शंकरं शंकराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ॐ सहनातु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
यहाँ पे सेकंड लाइन सह नो नहीं सह नौ
नौ ओके सह नौ भुनक राइट ओके आई गॉट इट सह नौ भुनक्तु राइट शुड आई कंप्लीट इट सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Verse 20, right? न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्य शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणः न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे वेदा विनाशिनं नित्यं य एनम् अजमव्ययम् कथं स पुरुषः पार्थ कङ्घातयति हन्तिकम् वासांसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय नवानि गृह्णाति नरोपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि नैन्यच्छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापः न शोषयति मारुतः अच्छेद्योऽयमधाह्योऽयम् अक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च नित्य सर्वगतस्तानुः अचलोऽयं सनातनः अव्यक्तोऽयमचिन्त्योऽयम् अविकार्योऽयमुच्यते तस्मादेवौ विदित्वैनं नानुशोचितुमर्हसि। अथ चैनं नित्यजातं मृत्यौ वा मन्यसे मृतम् तथापि त्वं महाभावो नैवं शोचितुमर्हसि जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्माद् अपरिहार्येऽर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि अव्यक्तादीनि भूतानि व्यक्तमध्यानि भारत अव्यक्तनिधनान्येव तत्र का परिदेवना.
Very good. Lot of improvement.
Thank you.
Only in the 23rd verse, the second line, the last word, Maruttaha. Na shoshayati Maruttaha.
न शोषयति मारुतः. Okay.
One more change, but I'll do that sometime later. A little more practice and then one little uchara. Excellent. Very good. Get up. So, we have completed the portion where Bhagavan is telling Arjuna and all of us why from the standpoint of Atma, which means those who know the nature of Atma as oneself, nature of oneself as Atma, they in the true sense have no grief about anything. The grief that we identify as natural to us, we expect it, we accept it as a part of life. Bhagavan says, the one who truly knows doesn't have the experience of grief at all. Why? For the simple reason, here in this context, he has not mentioned it. He has given us other lakshanas of Atma. Atma is changeless, Atma is nirvikari, Atma is akarta, Atma does not cause any action, Atma is avyaya, etc. He has mentioned all this keeping in mind Arjun who's experiencing grief because of the situation of war in front of him, which is going to bring about mrityu, death. And death is that one experience in every life which shakes us, topples us, which we are uncertain about, and certainly leaves behind a sense of loss, especially where we are close or with whom we are close, with whom we have developed closer relationships. Even the thought of losing that person, that association, is very painful, hurts inside. These are व्यवहारिक, these are our experiences. हम जीवन को यही समझते हैं. We think life is like this only. That when there is things going fine, we are but natural, happy. We do not register a principle of life, basic. What comes into being, what has manifested, is not eternal. will not last forever. What has manifested will stay for some time and will have unmanifestation at an opportune time. This, whoever holds in their mind while conducting life, will become the architect of shaping their experiences closer to what are cherishable, what are less toppling. You can carve your experiences because there will be an alignment with the fact of life. विस्मृति नहीं होती इस बात की कि आज मेरे जीवन में whatever is manifested is not permanent. वो विस्मृति नहीं होती. That means background of my mind, the acknowledgement of this fact, as Gita has stated to us, as Krishna has clearly expressed to us, that if you are able to hold the cognition of it, memory of it, reflect on it, contemplate on it, and anchor in it, भूलना नहीं चाहिए. Morning, evening, whenever, till it becomes natural, available thought process, and you are able to align your life choices based on this fact. What fact? Whatever there is today is not permanent. We have to hold this. Hold this matlab, when I wake up in the morning tomorrow, the memory should be fresh. That whatever has come is going to come today. It will, as it is unfolding, it is also getting a pratyaksham, a darshanam. It is also losing itself in the way. It is becoming, it is changing even while I'm experiencing it. Keeping that cognition in mind, the approach to life and situations and people, importantly, that changes completely. So on one hand, we have a jnani who's established in Atma Vidya and its available perception is there while life is continuing. That I am Atma, I am Nitya, I am Ajam, I am Avinashi. This is steady recognition. Sthita, in the second chapter later on, he's going to say it is going to be a Sthita Prajna. It is a steady, available cognition. भूलता नहीं है, जाता नहीं, disappear नहीं होता है. In your waking state, it is available throughout. It may not be a manifest thought, but the understanding of it is always available. What do I mean by manifest thought? Your name is so and so. Is it always manifest in you? Do you have to repeat every day morning, my name is so and so? I am so and so. I found it very fascinating while growing up. This was an exercise I did once, very, very young. Fortunately for me, I still have a memory of it. And the first time I was told, your name is Deepti. Someone called me Deepti. And it felt a strangeness. I wasn't sure they're calling me Deepti. I had to repeat it 5 times. Oh, if someone says Deepti, it's me. Now, after that, now do I have to remember? It's always there. I'll never mistake my name. That's steady cognition, it's called. It's a steady available thought. It doesn't dissipate, doesn't change. As long as my identification is with this body, I know my name. But it doesn't have to be manifest thought all the time in my conscious framework. But I know it. Those who know Atma as their nature, exactly the same way, it is a steady cognition. When they meet everyone, when they talk to everyone, it's not that they have to keep that cognition and they're strange people. No. Most of us won't even recognize if a Jnani passes by us. Because to recognize a Jnani, you have to be closer to the, at least have knowledge of what Jnani is, understand the Lakshanas. 99% of us are going to just, like Krishna, when he was there, we all know this, and hardly anybody was able to see him as he is. As he expressed his own, even when he showed his Virat Roop. It'll be fascinating in the 11th chapter. He's showing his Virat Roop to Arjuna. Even then, the Duryodhanas, all of them, are not seeing it. They're not recognizing Krishna. Which means what? Here there is a dridhata of a perception, of a knowledge. Gyan hai ye. Bodh hai ye. It's an understanding, consolidated understanding. And it is abadhya. It cannot be negated because it is about Atma, which is changeless. So knowledge about Atma that you have gained and confirmed is now never going to change. Abadhya. It cannot be negated by another piece of knowledge, like science goes on doing that. It brings up a theory, and then after a few generations, after a few decades, the previous one gets badhya, negated, and a new theory gets evolved, and we think there is evolution of knowledge. Atma Vidya is the pinnacle of knowledge. There is no more evolution after that. A person who knows this, why is it that he has no grief at all? In another context, Upanishads in particular, he says Atma Swarup is, along with all these, Swarup is Anandam. Anandam means, we understand Anand in contrast to grief. या मन दुखी है या आनंदी है, दुखी है या दुखी है. We see Anand as a contrast to a state of not being happy. The pairs of opposites are recognized. But Atma ek rasam, it alone is. There is nothing else there. Avyaya hai ye. What cannot have another as another experience. No vikar is possible. In its avastha, what is it? In its avastha, what is Atma? Sukha Swarup. How do we know that? Because Dukh is not natural to us. Words are cracking?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it better?
थोड़ा बेटर है पर काफी कुछ मिस हुआ है.
Oh, internet is working. I'll repeat. Is it better now?
हाँ जी.
Yeah.
Okay. What is Atma? It is Ananda Swarup. What do we mean by Ananda Swarup? Ananda Swarup is its state as is. It is not a contrast of Dukh. Dukh nahi hai isliye sukh hai. No. वहां कुछ second है नहीं. Atma alone is. Where Atma alone is, वहां being avyaya, avikari, there is no possibility of its avastha taking a change. And how do we know it is Ananda avastha? Because what is cherished by us. There is an anuman that we apply, inference that we apply to arrive at it. What is cherished by us? Sukham, happiness. What is completely avoided or rejected by us? Unhappiness, dukkham. In its natural state, important point I was making at that point was dukkha. Any form of dukh. You don't have to go deep into depression to call it a dukh. एक दिन में हमारे मन की जो ये एक वेव है ना, we are happy conditionally because some desires met, or some people we like, we have had a chance to meet, and then slowly the mind goes a little quiet, and then it sometimes goes under. In a day, our mind takes a wave. It's not steady perception. It is conditionally happy and it is conditionally unhappy. The condition has to be there for it to feel happy, and there will be a condition attributed to which you feel unhappy. That is not the natural state which can take a vikar. अगर जो सुख मुझे आज अनुभव हो रहा है, and I say, oh, I'm so happy, and I register that it is also what was I saying? Okay. The
You were
sukh that I am
talking about you were talking about the changing
Dukh.
experiences,
Mind
conditional happiness and
So as long as there is a conditional state that I'm attributing the happiness to, but natural, that condition, if it changes, will my happiness remain? Same thing with unhappiness. If my unhappiness I have attributed to a condition, to an avastha, will it remain when the condition changes? And that's what he is now, Krishna, telling us from our standpoint. That from the Jnani standpoint, from Atma Drishti standpoint, for whoever is a Bhagyavan, who has discovered their nature as Atma in its true sense, have once and for all got freed of these waves of happiness and sorrow in their life. Samsara nivritti ho gaya hai, pura. Even Janmantara is no longer there. It's a complete end to a limited state of existence. But knowing that it is a rare bhagyam, and a lot of tapas goes, lot of reflection goes, lot of chitta shuddhi has gone, there is a dridhata of the Atma Vidya ka pursuit before the bhagyam opens up. What does that then imply? That for us, this is now a goal. Jnani, what his expression is now my cherished value. ज्ञानी ने दिखा दिया कि possible तो है. My life, how much have I maintained it steady, not too extreme of happiness and not too extreme of sorrow. Freed my mind of the conditional happiness and conditional sorrow. That becomes the first stepping stone towards, yes, final. From the standpoint now where we are experiencing all this, we will definitely say, but no, initially in classes people would say that when you were very, very new to the class and Nay, but you do not understand our situation. This is it. It is, and you will convince. The Shastra doesn't convince you. Krishna says there is no reason to grieve is not convincing. You are convincing Krishna to say, no, but my grief is logical. My grief is correct. My grief has to be, I'm justified in my sorrow. I'm justified. Krishna says here, there is no exception. You are never justified. इस बात को ना हम जिससे कहते हैं, our mothers used to do that, गांठ बांधना, इस बात को चित्त से गांठ बांध लेनी चाहिए. What? That grief is not justifiable emotion. There is no justification to it. There is no logic to it. There is no reason for it. Why still do I experience? Because I am not thinking. It's a very simple reason. I'm not seeing facts. So I'm projecting something and I'm calling that as fact. Our standard example, I'm not seeing a rope, so I see a snake. So my fear is justified. Because I am not seeing a rope. I am not seeing a rope. If I leave it at that, will I have grief? When I see something coiled at the corner of a room and I don't jump to a conclusion and say, oh, it is a rope, it is a snake, sorry. If I don't jump to the conclusion, I don't know what that is and I say I do not know what it is. Not knowing what it is it tantamount to saying it is grief? It is fear? No. But हम जीवन में, the minute there is an identification with the body, which is by default in avidya, there's no choice. We are not leaving it to say, I do not know my nature. We are immediately imposing characteristics on us. We are instantly imposing qualities in us. You have to identify. अगर दुनिया में जीना है तो you have to be defining yourself. You'll have to limit yourself. You have to draw a boundary to who you are. So everything that we do in life is virtually adding layers of defining, limiting ourselves. Bhagavan says, from the standpoint of these experiences that you have in life, he says, I'm not now talking about Atma being Nityam and therefore you should not grieve and you are Atma. I am Atma. We are all Atma. There's no grief. I'm not talking from there now. I'm coming to the point that you say, my life has gain and loss of close ones is bound to be painful. Loss of my wealth will be painful. Loss of my health will be painful. Loss of my black hair will be painful to us. So many of us have problem white ho gaye. It's painful to us. That painful experience that you have, Bhagavan says, even this is not justified. Why? And he gives the answer in the next two verses. And he says, common sense. What is common sense? Your life, you said there was birth. Janam hua hai. In your life, you know there are changes always. In your life, you have attended many chauthas. You have gone to cremation grounds. You have had a loss of people, close ones, or you have seen some people around you who have lost their close ones. What is this? Is it a changeable fact? क्या आप इस स्वभाव को बदल सकते हो सृष्टि के? इट इज अ चेंजलेस फैक्ट. जो है, what has come to manifestation today will go out of manifestation another time. Nothing in the world, nothing in myself, from the standpoint of Jivatma, from the standpoint of an individual, there is inevitability of loss of people, of wealth, of stature, of status. If you have gained something, you can lose it. The first time you hear this, रोंगटे खड़े होते हैं. If you pick it up, well, if I have gained something, I can lose it. Should it be surprise? If I have gained something, means I didn't have it before. I can lose it. I can come back to not have it again. That is swabhav of Srishti itself. And everything that has come into Srishti is a manifestation. Being a manifestation, there is Nitya Pravaha, Nityatvam, always there like a river. We have seen this. Atma is Kutastha Nityam, changeless. But Srishti is Nityam, but it is Pravaha Nityam. It is ever changing. Therefore, I'm going to add this. Bhagwan is not calling us stupid, but I will say, how stupid of us. It'll be so stupid of us to hold on to something and say, it should not change. So he says, Atha, now, having taken that, let me take your standpoint, Arjuna. If you believe in relations, I got my happiness, so the loss of relation will give me pain, will give me sorrow when I lose them. That exactly is avidya. आपने संबंध बनाया किसके साथ है? We never question our need to have संबंध. संबंध हम बनाते क्यों हैं? In the first place. संबंध की जरूरत क्यों है? Why is संबंध so necessary? Why is संबंध such an integral seeking? Is संबंध any संबंध eternal? But are we ready for the change? This is, when people say, what is the use of Bhagavad Gita? I see so many uses, I've never been able to bullet them. Every verse only has so much youth. How can you bring all this into a form of point? जिसको ये समझ में आ जाती है, who is able to have Shraddha in this word and own it up, don't reject it, because 99% of us, having heard this, will still say, but will I not have pain when I lose my close ones? That is our test. That is our preparation. Are we prepared according to what Shastra has taught us? Shastra gives us knowledge. It has given us education. It has given us the formula to not have grief. And it is only legitimate to respect the laws of nature, to be in alignment with nature, Bhagwan's creation. Can I refute anything over here? मेरी मर्जी कैसे चल सकती है यहाँ पे? Therefore, Bhagwan says, even if you have a sambandha, however beautiful, yes, Bhagavad Gita classes, Vedanta classes is all preparation. Even if there is a sambandha and beautiful sambandha, That is supposed to be the ideal thing. If you find a partner with whom you can have growth, there is nothing more greater bhagyam in life. What more is to be expected here in creation? But am I prepared for the change? And it's a very thin line. People say, oh, if you misunderstand this point, then you will say, oh, it's so pessimistic to always, think and God. This is now you've misunderstood. Preparation means what? If there's COVID happening, did you not prepare yourself against it? You took all precautions, no? You took everything that was necessary. Why? Because there has to be a preparation against an eventuality. It can happen. What is the eventuality? If there is a sambandha, there will be a break of sambandha. There will be parting. Hashem, he says somewhere, what has got sanyoga will have the yoga. So what happens? When you are in a prepared, you've heard, you've understood, you've digested, all this happens when life is going fine. Not when I am in challenging mode of life. Bhagwan has thrown obstacles and I am now trying to apply the knowledge. Everything's going by the grace of Anugraha of Bhagwan. Everything's going fine. Now I utilize the time to reflect on these. There has to be a preparation. Whatever I cherish today, there must be a preparation of its loss. It's not a wish. It's not a hope. It is an acceptance of an inevitable change. It can happen for better. It can happen for worse. It can happen any other way. There is no determining factor known to the conscious mind as a jiva buddhi. Krishna says later, he says, I know past, present and future. But you, O Arjuna, do not know your past and do not know your future. You are not able to discern. You are not able to hold. Why? Because you are confined to this life and this individual Jivatma Buddhi. And because of the Jivatma Buddhi, you are holding on to the limited sukham that you get out of Indriya. इंद्रिय जन्य सुख को आपने भ्रमा हो गया है कि ये आत्मा का सुख है. So even संबंध, if it gives a lot of happiness and peace and harmony to us, एक भ्रम आता है. There is a delusion that happens and you think, oh, that is the sukh that is going to last. Shastra Vidya trains the mind, allows us to appreciate as is. Fundamental principle. What has come into being, what has come into manifestation, what has come into an expression of life will have a darshanam. Death is a gory word. Birth is darshanam. Death is adarshanam, Bhashyakara says. It's only gone out of your perception. Actual death नहीं है किसी चीज का. Only the जो death हो सकता है, जिसका हो सकता है, वो वैसे भी जड़ है. शरीर का मृत्यु हो सकता है, शरीर वैसे भी जड़ है. शरीर का होना ही है मृत्यु. But the indweller here, this indweller का मृत्यु नहीं है. So what happens because of the close association if someone goes away? Adarshanam. They have gone out of your physical perception. You can't see now the locus of the identity because the body is gone. So you cannot you cannot contact the individual. There is no individual expressing now. There is no mirror there to show the sun. There is no pool of water for sun to reflect. So, he says, if you really think closely, and this is an honest evaluation, it will be in a very honest evaluation. When we grieve, you have to be very honest in your spiritual sadhana, in your adhyatmic gati if you want. Honesty is the only way you can have gati. If you fool yourself, you can't fool Bhagwan. You can't fool Ishvara. You can't fool the laws. You can fool yourself. In complete honesty, if I have a state of mourning or grief, what am I really grieving for? जब भी हमें दुख हुआ है, सच पूछें तो हमें दुख को एनालाइज करो, दुख को खोलो, समझो दुख क्या है. जब भी दुख को खोलोगे, मैं दुखी हूं करके I can really indulge and there are people who love sympathy. They cherish sympathy. Their individuality is on poor me. So every few days they'll cook up such a difficult situation around them and then they say, poor me. And then you have to, because the situation is difficult. So you will say, poor me, poor you. A human value you will extend and you will sympathize with another person. But that person also to come out and you not to fall into such a self-pity mode of life. Open your dukh. जब भी मन में दुख आता है, हम सबको आता है, कभी ना कभी तो आना ही है. दिन में it hits us, sometimes as anger, sometimes as frustration, sometimes as irritation, sometimes as sadness, sometimes as all these bhav, which we want to get rid of for our peace of mind to prevail back. ये जो दुख, इसको खोलो, समझो, understand. दुख है किस चीज का? What are you really grieving for? If it is a very close relationship, means it has nourished you, it has nurtured you, and it is a beautiful relationship, supposing. And for whatever reason it's lost. What is the grief for? What are you really feeling sorry for? What are you grieving for? Sorry is a different word. What are you grieving for? Dukh kis baat ka hai?
It's actually your own loss. That's why you're grieving.
Fundamental. We all know this. If we look at it closely, we grieve for ourselves. We never grieve for another. When you grieve for your own self, Bhagwan says, is this justified? Why? Because नियम है ये जीवन का. अब आप नियम के बाहर जी कैसे सकते हो? How can you live outside gravity if you are on earth? सृष्टि का नियम है ये. जो जन्म लिया है, कर्म फल है. कर्म फल exhaust. Whatever it will give, even associations and dissociations in relationships are all that. Whenever it is gone, the karam phal exhausted, niyam hai ye, that situation will change. You can't hold on to the situation. The gross world, this is a leap in understanding. The gross world is dependent upon your subtle world. आपके अंतःकरण पे डिपेंडेंट है आपकी बाहर की दुनिया कैसी है. We all say no, but we see the sun and the moon and the stars and they have always been there. Even Puranas say Srishti has so many yugas and so many years to sun will rise so. It's a cycle of how often it will rise. It will remain. Sorry, rise is our perception. It is a cycle that it is manifested in creation. Correct. But your experience within here, when will you wake up to see a sun? If you're woken up to see a sun, you will also not wake up to see a sun. Is sun going to be there for you then? Can you prove the existence of creation without you? So Bhagwan says, कॉमन सेंस रखो अपने साथ. बहुत बड़ी फिलॉसफी देते नहीं है शास्त्र में. इट्स ऑल तर्क. इट इज ऑल everyday verifiable fact. What is growth in one's understanding is when we are able to align our life according to those facts. जितना जितना हम कर सकते हैं उतना उतना you will find freedom. What is a fact? It starts first with everyday sthirta. For some of us, everyday sthirta is also a huge challenge. Remaining sthir one day at a time. Because my buddhi takes refuge in the fact that Bhagwan says here, Krishna says here, grief is not your natural state. Therefore, why should I abide in it? Why should I dwell in it? Why should I linger in it? Why should I hold on to it? हाँ है, स्वाभाविक है कि व्यवहार है तो सुख दुख तो है. But why should I dwell in it? That attempt to remove my lingering, dwelling, holding on to, starts to fall away. So even if there is a dukh, it comes as a prick and it's gone. ऐसा नहीं है कि किसी की डेथ होएगी, क्लोज वन की, एंड यू गोइंग टू हा 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 हा. ओ आत्मा तो मरती नहीं है, आत्मा तो अमर है, कहीं नहीं गई है. एंड व्यवहारिकली, yes. Second, that was my first point. Second point is, why did you form the sambandh? What was the first point? Why is there a need for sambandh? Sambandh bana क्यों? Because here you are not पूर्ण by yourself. आत्मा is पूर्णम. नहीं जानते. अपूर्णता हमेशा लगती है, तो किसी ना किसी चीज के साथ भर के अपने आप को you feel fine for some time. But संबंध की जो जरूरत है, अगर है, nothing wrong in it, but to believe it कि ये वियोग नहीं होगा, is it logical? That's why I say, it's my conviction that I try to live with for sure. That every day what I have cherished, any sambandh that I cherish it for the day. Because if I don't cherish it, नियम में तो ये बदलेगा ही. So why will I not cherish what I have? The value of life and, recognition of the beauty of life. You get very sensitive to it because this niyam is drid. Kuch bhi badlega. So do I want to feel the loss tomorrow without having lived it fully? I better live it fully while it is there. I better live it wholeheartedly. I better appreciate and receive the prasad that Bhagavan has forwarded by enjoying it without any commas and semicolons and exclamation marks and question marks in that experience of life. What is a comma? Everything's going fine. But what is a semicolon? Everything's going fine. But something else. New sentence, new statement started. What is an exclamation mark? Everything's going fine. But how? What is a question mark? How did this happen? Why to me? I hope this is clear. So that you live, he says, atha cha enam nitya jatam. Whatever has come to birth, jatam, jo hai, manifestation mein. Nityam va manyase mritam. Know it to be always going into unman. Nityam. प्रवाह नित्यम है. आएगा जाएगा, आ रहा है जा रहा है, आ रहा है जा रहा है. हमारा लाइफ क्या है? आ रहा है जा रहा है. देखते ही देखते, I was just seeing total of how many classes, like in 35th class today. देखते ही देखते आ रही है जा रही है. Before it started, when will we start? What will we do? Should we start? There were a lot of vikalpas happening. Once you start, it has now started a cycle. There will be limitation of choice now. But जैसे जैसे आ रही है वैसे वैसे जा रही है ना. We finished the first chapter. We are almost 1/4 over in the second chapter. This is Gita. What is life? आ रही है जा रही है every day. Should you expect anything else here? Tathapi, in this same. Also, O Mahabaho, O Arjun, Tvam na evam shochatum arhasi. Do not grieve like this. Na evam, is तरीके से the way you are grieving like a normal samsari. अविद्यावान. हर चीज में जहां उसको आनंद दिखता है पकड़ लेता है और वो सोचता है फिर अब ये मुझसे छूटना नहीं चाहिए. That is a natural instinct. How a child holds a toy with which it gets joy. Their joy is so pure. They giggle. They laugh. With such purity their laughter is there. But at what? At seeing that bhumar bhumoing, whatever it is called. On their cradle, there is this toy rotating, revolving, and there is a joy, laughter, so much happiness. But where is that happiness coming? Expressing from? Seeing that? Was it that which is generating the happiness? That experience of the senses, how they cling on to what is going to be felt as happiness. Because you experience some happiness in life, trust us, it's fascinating. अगर हमें थोड़ा आनंद मिला ही ना होता ना जीवन में, पूरा ही जीवन अगर दुख भरा होता सबका, there is nobody on the planet at any point of time in a human form who would not have had their share of happiness also. मगर ध्यान कहाँ है? रोना किस बात? आनंद नहीं है कि I have had my share of happiness. I've had my share of joys. I've had my share of comfort. I've had my share. And if I've had that share, then along with it, that neem and good example that in South India they give you on New Year's Day, you have. There is a prasad that is given of neem leaves, that kadvi, tender neem leaves and good. It is given on which
Ugadi.
festival?
Ugadi.
Ugadi, that's right, on Ugadi. Ugadi is the new year. That tender leaf neem leaf and good. They will come together in a human life. Your experiences of pleasant and unpleasant are always going to come together like two sides of a coin. If you have experienced joy from conditions, you will experience unhappiness when the conditions change. You cannot alter this. Therefore, O Mahabaho, don't be grieving like an ignorant person who will hold on to pleasures thinking they are final and not understanding that they are also as temporary as everything else. Neither is unhappiness permanent, nor is happiness permanent here. Neither are comforts permanent, nor is struggle permanent here. Everything is going to be only to be there for a moment. Shanikam is another school that it's only Shanikam. Buddhists talk a lot about Shanikam. It only expresses in a moment and it goes away. But they say it goes away into Shunyam. No. It only has an expression and it dissolves back into its source. The source is ever there. It is your Ananda that is the source. Not recognizing it, you are extending conditions that if this comes, I am happy. So, atha cha enam nitya jatam. Nitya jatam is loka prasiddhaya prati aneka sharira utpatti jatam. Every time there is a birth of the body, you say, now there is birth. Iti, in this manner you say, oh, this has come into being. Tatha prati tat vinasham nityam vamanyase. Mritam. You will call every time this body dies, you will say, this is vinashaha. Therefore, he says, Janma vataha nashaha. That is why I'm highlighting it. A principle to be digested well within. Whatever is of the Janma vataha, जिसका nature है जन्म लेना, नाशः नाशवतः, उसी का nature भी होगा नाश होना. जन्म और नाश are two sides of a coin. Therefore, avashyam bhavinaha, they are avashyam, always going to be there. Therefore, na evam shochitum arhasi. Do not grieve like this, O Arjuna. It makes no sense. What is our takeaway from that verse? And of course, the next verse, he's going to repeat the same thing. But what is our takeaway in day-to-day life? In our life, what is the takeaway of this? There are so many points of takeaway. Each one can take away what they connect with. You can think about it, Aram said. There are takeaways of these verses because Atma we still have to reflect upon. But this is immediate. I experience grief. Somebody said today, yes, there's a loss of a close one. There is a grief. Vyavaharically, the grief is not denied. You'll be abnormal people if you say to anybody that Shastra is saying, oh, do not grieve means you should not be grieving like this. Shastra is not saying that. It is saying the grief that you are experiencing, swabhavik hai. But try and overcome it. Don't dwell in it. Be matured.
To
Have
be
a mature
balanced.
thinking. be
to
balanced,
be balanced.
and above that, have a mature thinking. Reside in the mature thinking. Mature your thinking. How do you mature your thinking? This fact, I abide in. Whatever has come to birth, I should be prepared for a loss. When Vedanta is not too active as a study, because study gives us a lot of material. But this is one thing that we should do as regularly. Every few weeks or months, till you have got used to it, especially people you are very close to. There has to be a mental rewinding of acceptance of a situation that there will be loss, there will be viyog. इसकी तैयारी होना, मन में तैयारी होना बहुत आवश्यक है. Most of us are not prepared for it. So, excuse me. So, na tvam shochatum arhasi. Then in the next verse he says, simple, same thing. Whatever has come into manifestation will go out of manifestation. Avyakta adi. Avyaktadini. Adi, beginning. From avyakta, there is a vyakta of bhutani, of all beings. From a state of not seeing to a state of manifestation, this is applicable to all what we call as beings, bhutas. Bhutas, not elements, bhutani as those beings, living beings, all living beings have come from a state of avyakta to vyakta, like yesterday I was saying. Then vyakta madhyani, they exist, express for some time. Vyakt hai, avyakti hai. Avyakta nidhanani eva. At the end, what happens again? Avyakta nidhanam eva. उस जो व्यक्त हुआ है, अव्यक्त से व्यक्त हुआ है, और फिर अव्यक्त फिर से होगा. And once again there will be अव्यक्तता. तत्र का परिदेवना. What is there to grieve? Paridevana. In accepting this fact, what is there to grieve? Bhagwan says, Bhashyakara says a beautiful word. Paridevana, he says, pralapaha. Pralapaha we all understand better. And then he says, what is it? Adrishta, drishta, pranashta. It was adrishta, then it became drishta, then it became pranashta, destroyed. Bhranti bhuteshu, bhuteshu. There is this bhranti that it is getting nashta with reference to all beings. That it dies. So, everything will have he gives here a quotation from a Stri Parva of the Mahabharata also. He says, Tatha cha uktam adarsanat apatitaha punaha cha adarsanam gataha na asautav na tasya tvam vritha ka paridevana. He says the idea is he has come from an unseen state and has returned to that state again. He does not belong to you, nor do you to him. Why then this vain lament? You do not belong to him, and that is a point of reflection. When I was saying संबंध क्यों बनता है, क्यों संबंध बनाते हैं, the point of reflection is you do not belong to them, they do not belong to you. So what is sambandha? It's a bhranti. It's not real. व्यवहार जीने के लिए, comfort for the passage of life, it's helpful. Having associations is needed. Social beings. We need help from each other. Yes, we get off our own stations. So, avyakta, then it comes into vyakta, then it again goes into nashta, and when we say it's got destroyed, that's the bhranti. It is actually avyakta again. And the sambandha itself is that it is bhranti. Sambandha itself is, they don't belong to me, I don't belong to them. So who am I? That comes to Atma Vichar then. But in Vyavhar, that exercise has to be constantly done. If I'm getting sukh from any sambandha, then exercise is even more needed. दुख किसी संबंध में है तो वो तो हम वैसे भी छोड़ देते हैं. We don't keep the sambandh alive. If there is pain from any sambandh, we are very happy to dissociate. But जिस संबंध में सुख है, grief वहीं से आएगा. अर्जुन को वहीं से संबंध दुख हो रहा है. भीष्म पितामह एंड द्रोणा के लॉस का दुख हो रहा है. दुर्योधन के लॉस का दुख is not such a, he's not lamenting over that. By the way, yes, but that's not his actual point of confusion. So where there is in Vyavahar, everyday life of us, what is a direct application in that sense, if you want to call it as application of Gita? This fundamental niyam has to be tied to our understanding. Therefore, it becomes like an insurance against the knocks and shocks when life throws to you. And also, it will be a great help to charter your direction of life, to become an architect of your own life and experiences that you wish to generate. You will have knowledge of what experiences should I be coveting. Should I be a generator of karta bhav and ajnana I cannot avoid? I will be a karta. So what karmas should I be a karta of? Correct. Therefore have pratiksha. The more the attachment, the more the grief. Absolutely. Greater the attachment, greater the grief. Sambandh itself is mithya. There is really no sambandh. And that is how, people say, but how? If you're not prepared for knowledge, then everything is a wonderment of how sannyasis live and how can they have without partners, they don't have children. How can they live a life like this? They don't pursue money, they're all kinds of vague ideas you have. But you grow out of all these sambandhas, the dependency on these sambandhas, because there really is no sambandha. How can you compromise on that statement? How can you sugarcoat this? How can you believe a bhranti as true? जब भ्रांति दिख रही है, तो how can you thereafterwards believe it as true? But that doesn't mean that we can't enjoy our journey together. That doesn't mean that we will not support each other. That doesn't mean that we will not help each other. That doesn't mean that we will not nourish each other. That doesn't mean that we will not have beautiful relationships. Of because, in fact, because I understand there are no relationships, I will make relationships beautiful. Because तथ्य नहीं है संबंध में. Very difficult for people to understand this. It's very difficult even to say it, because this is a Shastra Vidya, we take the courage to say it. There is no relation. That's a fact. Nirvana Shatakam is the truth. There is no Mata, there is no Pita, there is no Brata, there is no Bandhu, there is no Sakha, there is no Guru, there is no Shishya. And when you tell this in an unprepared mind, there is fear. But this is a fact. So if there is a fear, means this is unprepared, means the basic exercises also of the mind I am not keeping up. What is the basic exercise? जो आज है, कल छूट सकता है. Am I ready for it? Am I mentally strong? Have I got the acceptance of it? Have I strength in my mind to face a situation which will arise, especially with relations that have nourished me when they disappear? Have I nourished my mind, nurtured my mind? Have I prepared my mind that to face a situation when those are not going to be there? Why are parents so loved by everyone? Which parents are loved? Let me put it this way. Not every parent is loved. If your parent is a very selfish kind of a person who's always extracting from you, you don't have attachment for such a parent. Who do you have attachment for? If they have been serving you, beck and call, been kind to you, been generous to you, no, exactly. Given you everything, unconditionally loved you, then you have a feeling for them. How funny is that? I don't know if you see it as that, but it is funny. Strange it is, but because they give me, I like them. बात खत्म ना, इतनी simple है ये बात. If they don't give me, if they stop today to nourish me, to give me unconditionally, people are ready to disown their parents, especially when they get old. Why? Because संबंध है क्या? अगर संबंध होता तो क्या आप उसको तोड़ सकते थे? There's nothing called संबंध. However kadwa this sounds, it has to be gulped. And then slowly at our own pace we can digest it. There's no hurry to digest it. There is no rush to understand it. But it is a fact. Shastra Vidya hai ye. You can't change a fact. So, he completes that and then he comes to the 29th verse. From here, in these two verses, he is giving it from our standpoint. Vyavharik, Laukik standpoint. It is not possible at all to okay, let me rephrase the words. It is impossible not to have grief experienced if you hold Bhranti as your base of Vyavhar. But because it is there, Shastra's point is to help us grow from it. It is not saying कि होगा नहीं आपको, होगा, लेकिन क्योंकि होता है, Shastra is to show us a way to grow out of it. मार्गदर्शन है ये. So what is a way to grow out of this feeling grief? Abide in the knowledge of facts. The fact is, नियम से ये चलेगा और नियम आपसे नहीं चलता. You have to follow the niyam. Even to sleep. What is that cycle? Circadian cycle or something they call it? What is that cycle? Circadian, right? Sleep has a
Yes,
cycle.
yes.
Circadian, right?
Circadian.
If that circadian, what is that circadian cycle? If that cycle is also goes off, you wake up at a wrong time, you sleep at a wrong time. You suddenly wake up because the cycle is upset. Whose circadian cycle is actually correct? You get a good sleep if you are in the circadian cycle. Sunrise के साथ और sunset के साथ. If the body has been habituated, your life is habituated with sunrise and sunset, and you are conducting the life vyavhar within those niyamas, you are fairly sleeping well. So, I think I will end here. Circadian rhythm. That's right, rhythm. This verse 29 we'll start in the next class because he says, Durvigne, I'll do the introduction to the next verse. Bhagwan accepts this fact. There is no delusion. We are all balaha from drishti of Shastra Vidya. Shastra ki nazar se, we are all adhyatmik balaha. We are infants in adhyatma gati. So Bhagwan accepts, Shastra accepts that it will be struggle for us, it will be difficult for us to understand all this. Durvigneyaha. It is a difficult topic to comprehend. I am prakritaha atma, regarding what has been spoken about atma. So, kim tvam eva ekam upalabhe sadharane Bhranti nimitte? Why should you be picked up exclusively to say, oh, I don't understand? If all of us were to tell us, do we really understand Atma Vidya? Enough that it dissolves our grief? No, he says the topic of Atma is extremely durvigneya, difficult to comprehend, difficult to internalize, I would say. The topic is difficult to comprehend, to make it known. Even Laukik Gyan, when you pursue any subject knowledge, is it easy? I give the example because it's beautiful for me. These are markers that I've kept in my life as reflective, helped me grow a lot. My first class of anatomy, when you study anatomy and physiology, you're bonkers especially after your 12th grade, when you come to the first year of college, and if you are into any of the medical subjects, and your first class of anatomy, and they give you all new jargon, all new terms you never heard of those terms, scapulas and tendons and this nerve going from here, origin, insertion, and oh, it's fascinating. And that was a pratipaksha bhavna like none other. You see a skeleton, you see a body there, you see the fibers, you see the names, all that knowledge you had to learn. Any Laukik Gyan is also not easy. What are we talking about? A Gyan which is aprathyaksham, aprameyam, and yet available for knowledge. बहुत सूक्ष्म हो जाता है वो विचार then. So he says, because it is so subtle a topic, it's okay if we don't understand. Bhagwan is giving us compassionate freedom. Take time to understand, repeat it. But if you want a solution, this knowledge is the solution. So he says, and a famous verse, Ashcharyavat. It's an Ashcharya that this topic gets even discussed because it is so subtle that people don't, you can reject it very easily. Something that you cannot see, something that you cannot hear, something that you cannot touch, you cannot experience, you cannot, in the sense of know from the thought, how am I to believe in that knowledge? आत्मा पूरा ही अप्रमेय है, तो आत्मा है ये कैसे कोई जाने? Therefore he says it's an ashcharya, and it comes from an Upanishad. It's an ashcharya that there is this knowledge available in the world, that some say I see. It's an ashcharya, some talk about it. It's ashcharya that some can reflect over it, etc., etc. But knowing also, people do not know. He says, Trutva api enam veda nacha eva kaschit. सारा सुनने के बाद, पूरा आत्म विद्या का प्रकरणम पढ़ने के बाद also, नच्च एव कश्चित् एनम. No one understands it. No one knows it. That's how rare it is. Rare is in the sense, the Atma is not rare. But Jivatma, removing the delusion, is rare. We are happy to be in our deluded, cocooned perception of Jivatma. उसी में एक अपना घर बना लिया हमने, उसी में अपनी आइडेंटिटी बना ली, उसी में लॉलीपॉप आनंद जो मिल गया, enough. And that is why in the Vedic cycle, in the Vedic vision, I'll say that and conclude, throughout the year, there are so many occasions to get to karma, to get to upasana, and have shravanam wherever possible of Atma Vidya. A Vaidika life means you minimize your extroverted sense of accomplishment and pursuit, and keep your life abided in karmas and upasanas. So many festivals, abhi Ganesh Chaturthi khatam hua, Navratri aa gaya. The sad part about it is when you do not use it as an occasion for karma and upasana, and you use that as a means of entertainment. Abhi Dussehra aayega, and then again Diwali aayegi, and then something. But every festival will be, we impose happiness out of it. We want happiness out of it. But the whole culture in a year, if you were to map, if we were to live one more year, supposing all of us were to live just one more year, say that is next year is our last year, somehow we all have Durudrishti, we have figured out, okay, ek saal aur hai. And after that, this sharir is going to go pop, adrishtam, nash. The Jivatma will give it up like Vasam se Jinani. You will give it up. What will be your immediate need? You only have 1 year now. Bhagavatam gave 7 days to Parikshit. 1 year left. Kya karoge? That is to be thought. And that is why in a year, so many such occasions are given. Every month you have some occasion to gear up your adhyatmic gati, because that is the only thing you will carry with you. That is why I refuse to talk about Bhagavad Gita in the sense of management or other things. Because if this is also going to be reduced to something in the world, then what will give us Adhyatmic Gati? Because that is the only thing that is a carry forward. This body is temporary. Your life is temporary. What will you carry forward with you is all the karma that you would have earned, is all the chitta shuddhi you have aspired for, is all the atma anatma that you attempted at. This is your carry forward. It will tag with you. मगर हमारा जीवन 99.9 of us का जीवन बीत जाता है even in those moments we are not able to, because it's a habit. That's why culture and groups were important. But if groups don't serve the purpose, then there's no point of a group. Okay, so we will end here.
Sham swastir bhavatu sarvesham shantir bhavatu sarvesham purnam bhavatu sarvesham mangalam bhavatu. This is another one that you've put the slide.
No, it's the same.
Same.
Sarve
bhavantu sukhinah sarve santu niramayah sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschid dukh bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This I don't know.
Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam.
Om Swasti Prajabhaya Paripalayantam.
Prajabhyah Paripalayantam.
Prajabhaya Paripalayantam.
Bhaya would become fear. The meaning will
so it
change.
is.
Prajabhyah.
Oh, Prajabhya. Okay,
Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam.
Om Swasti Prajabhya Paripalayantam.
Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha.
Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahisha.
Go Brahmanebhyah Shubhamastu Nityam.
Go Brahmane Bhasyu. No, I couldn't get that.
Go Brahmanebhyah Shubhamastu Nityam.
Go Brahmane Bhasyu. Nebhyashu Shubha Mastu.
Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu.
Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu.
Kale Varshatu Parjanyaha.
Kale Varshatu Parjanyaha.
Prithvi Sasya Shalini.
Prithvi Shashya Salini.
Desho Yam Kshobarahitaha.
Desho Yam Shobha Rahitaha.
Brahmana Santu Nirbhayaha.
Brahmana Santu Nirbhayaha.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.